So you might have heard that after Brexit, it has become really hard or maybe close to impossible to relocate to the United Kingdom. This is actually completely not true, and the opposite is true. It has become much easier for people from most of the world to come and work here, and there are more visas now, and the visas are more flexible and the requirements are lower. My name is Nadia, I'm a software engineer living and working in London, and today I want to tell you about the two main ways that exist to relocate to the United Kingdom for software engineers. If you're interested in this, please continue watching. So there are two main ways to move to the UK, the easier one and the harder one. The easier one is called the skilled worker visa. To get this visa, you basically just need to find a job in the UK and your employer will sponsor your visa. That's it. This is the visa that I initially had when I moved to the UK. I will focus on this visa in this video. And the harder visa to get is called the Global Talent Visa. This is the visa that I was able to switch to very recently. I think that this is actually the best visa that you can get as a software engineer or a professional moving to the UK. And I will focus on this visa in much more detail in a series of upcoming videos. So coming back to the skilled worker visa, the easier route. If you're a software engineer with a few years of experience, if you're senior level, I think that it should be very easy for you to find a job in the UK and get your employer to sponsor your visa. The UK actually has a shortage of qualified professionals in the field of digital technology. Basically, software engineers are needed here. So if you have experience, it shouldn't be too hard. If you're mid-level, it will be a little bit harder for you to find a job and get the job to sponsor your visa. So as a mid-level engineer, I did find it a little bit challenging to find companies who were willing to sponsor my visa. But I still had a pretty good selection. It's just that certain companies wouldn't want to talk to me because they were only willing to sponsor visas for senior level engineers. If you're a junior, I'm sure that there might be ways for you to get the visa and come here, but it also won't be very easy or quick. But honestly, outside of that, once you have the job, you kind of got the main thing covered already. You don't need much else otherwise. You will need to take an English test to prove that you speak English at the level of B1, but you don't need to prove that you're an advanced English speaker or anything like that. And also you don't need to have a higher education diploma in computer science, but honestly you don't need to have any kind of higher education at all. You can be a high school graduate and still get the skilled worker visa. I think this is where a lot of people are confused and they are thinking of other countries where you actually need to have higher education to get a skilled worker visa or something like that. In the UK, it's not necessary. They're not checking it. So as you can see, this seems like a very relaxed and easy visa to get. And on top of that, you actually don't have to worry about getting the visa because your employer covers all of it. They usually hire a lawyer who deals with all the fees, they pay all the fees, they deal with all of the legal stuff. And for you, you just send them copies of your passport and other documents. You take this test, and that's it. So the only thing that you need to think about is booking this test well in advance so that your visa process goes smoothly and quickly. So it sounds like a perfect visa, but unfortunately there are some issues with it, and I wanted to mention them so that you are aware of them and can make an informed decision. So this visa, the skilled worker visa, is actually tied to your employer. What I mean by that is that once your relationship with this employer ends, your visa ends as well. So if you want to change your job, or maybe you'll get fired, or there is a layoff, or your company disappears, your visa actually disappears with them. And once this relationship ends, you have just 60 days to either find another job or leave the country. And when I say find another job, you will need to find another employer who will be willing to sponsor a new visa for you. And this won't be an update to your current visa or an extension or anything like that. This will be a whole new visa. The process will be started from zero, and again, this new employer will have to pay all of the costs and kind of worry about the legal requirements and all of that. So I've heard some pretty bad stories about this visa that made me very skeptical about it. So one story that I've heard is that somebody was fired from their job and they had that 60 days to find a new one. They weren't able to find a job in time and they had to actually pack and leave UK and then apply for a new visa from outside the UK. And another story that I've heard is that, again, somebody lost their job and then they had to find something new, and they were pretty sure they wouldn't be able to find it in time, so they were prepared to leave. They were quite literally packed and ready to go, and then they found something last minute and they were able to stay and get a new visa. But can you imagine how stressful this is, to have your whole life dependent on your employer, on the whims of your employer, on the economic situation, especially with the recent layoffs in the industry? Like, you can be fired practically any day of the week, and then imagine that your whole life depends on the employer. So I personally found this relationship with my employer very unhealthy. I don't want my whole life to be dependent on how my job is going. I want to be independent. I want to have the possibility to make my own decisions and to feel secure in the sense that as long as I have money and I can take care of myself, I'm allowed to stay in the UK. So for me personally, this is the major disadvantage of this visa, and something that you should probably keep in mind as well, especially if you're coming here with family and your whole family will be dependent on your visa. So just keep it in mind. Also, you can't really have a side hustle or a side business once you have this visa, and also there is no possibility for you to take a sabbatical or a few months off work. Even if you have money, even if you can afford it, there is no way for you to do this, because the idea of the skilled worker visa is that you are expected to work most of the time for 5 years that you get the visa until you can apply for the permanent residency. So when it comes to getting permanent residence in the UK or getting the British passport, the skilled worker visa is actually not the greatest option that you have. You will have to live and work in the UK for 5 years until you can apply for permanent residency, and then in a year's time you can apply for a British passport. There are actually visas that would allow you to get the permanent residence in just 3 years and the passport in 4 years. Still, having said all of that, I do think that skilled worker visa can be a great option for you in certain cases, but you need to be aware of what your goals are and also what the disadvantages of the visa are to understand whether getting this visa and coming to the UK on this visa makes sense for you. So this can be a great option for you if, for instance, you are looking for a way to get experience working in a Western company based in London. This can be a great thing to have on your resume, for instance, if you want to come back to your own country, and then you can negotiate a higher salary because you can say that, hey, I have this experience working in an international company in London. And this is something very valuable, and that is something that is pretty prestigious and respected in many countries. There is another scenario where skilled worker visa becomes very valuable, and this is what I've heard that a lot of people do. There are a lot of people who actually want to work as software engineers in the United States, but as you might have heard, immigration system in the United States is much more complex, and there are actually limits on how many work visas can be granted in the United States each year. There are no such limits in the UK, so it might be easier to get a job at a big tech company in London, come here on a skilled worker visa, work for a year, and then maybe apply for an internal transfer within the company to an American office, or just to try to get a job in an American company while you're based here. So in this case, you can view London as a place where you just spend a little bit of time, and for these purposes, I think the skilled worker is a perfect tool. This is also a great visa if you don't have that much money, or maybe you have money but you don't feel like spending a lot of your savings on a visa. All of UK's visas are very expensive, so if you want to go through another visa route, you might need to pay all of the legal expenses yourself. With a skilled worker visa, everything is covered by your employer. You don't have to pay anything, and it can be a really nice way for you to come to the UK, to see whether you like it, to explore it, and just to spend some time trying to get a feel for whether this is the place where you want to spend more time or not. And this is exactly what I did. I didn't have a chance to visit London before I relocated here last year, so I was very nervous that I wouldn't like it here, and of course I didn't want to spend my own money on a visa or anything like that. So it was very important for me that my future employer would cover all of those costs so that I could come here and see whether I see myself spending as any significant period of time in London. Once I've spent around half a year in London and I saw that I absolutely love the city and I see myself living and working here in the future, I made the switch to a global talent visa, basically as soon as possible. And this is something that you can also do, and this is something that a lot of people actually do. So you can view the skilled worker visa as a stepping stone for you to get a better visa on your way to permanent residency or British passport. So what's the deal with the global talent visa and what does this name even mean? Basically, the United Kingdom government came up with this visa as a way to attract top talent from all over the world to come live in the UK and work here and basically improve our economy and make Britain great again. It is objectively a much better visa than skilled worker. It gives you much more flexibility in terms of where you can work. It gives you the chance to change jobs without notifying the government. You're allowed to have your own business. You're allowed to study. You're allowed to also not work for some time, and in some cases you're actually able to get a permanent residence in just 3 years. So it is an amazing visa. It is so exciting that it exists, and I think that if you are interested in relocating to the UK, or maybe if you are already in the UK on the skilled worker visa, that it might be worth looking into switching to this visa. I will tell you much more about what this visa is, how it works, and how you can build a strong case to potentially get this visa in the future in my upcoming videos. So if you're interested in this, please consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!